moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
I went to Nick's, which is also a famous place. They make a roast pork sandwich with broccoli rabe, which is possibly the greatest sandwich I've ever had in my life.
Ooh.
Like, I love sandwiches. I'm the kind of person who just loves to get sandwiches everywhere I go. I like all the sandwiches. The pork was so tender. I love broccoli rabe. I'm Italian. And it was just so delicious.
The pork is tender because Rocky was beaten up on it.
Yeah, that's why.
He tenderized it.
It is so kind of weird though, because yes, we went there partially because we wanted to do American history thing with our son, and then we went on to DC after that. And so we went to Independence Hall and we saw the Liberty Bell and all of that stuff. But I would literally say the two most famous residents of Philadelphia are Benjamin Franklin and Rocky. Way the city has sort of embraced the iconography of Rocky.
Sure, why wouldn't you?
It is bizarro to see the line of people waiting to take a selfie with the Rocky statue outside.
Probably more so than the Liberty Bell. Museum
of Art. Not quite. There's a pretty long line for the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. It's cool, but it's kind of weird, how hard they've embraced this. Every gift shop you go into, there's a Rocky themed product in some way. It's funny. Yeah. But I went out to run the first morning we were there, and we were about little over 1.5 miles from the Philadelphia Museum of Art. So where my hotel was, I basically just went out around City Hall, which you can see from everywhere in the city, and has the famous statue of William Penn on top. And then I basically ran around City Hall, got on Benjamin Franklin Parkway, and ran straight up to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. I'm running along, and it's before dawn, and I'm trying to time it so that I get up to the steps right at dawn so I can turn around and take a picture of the skyline with the sunrise. And as I'm running up to the steps, I see this couple, and the guy's wearing a big heavy coat and he's got a backpack, and he's walking really fast, and he's saying to his wife, come on, trying to hurry her. And I'm thinking, he must be a photographer, because he also wants a picture of the sunrise. I get up to the steps, and I pass them, I'm going up the steps, and I see there's a line of people doing basically the same thing that I'm probably there for, right? To take a photo, because they all seem to be waiting for the sunrise. I get to the top, and just as I'm about to turn around, I hear some guy go, run, run. And I was like, what? So I turn around at the top, and I look down, and I see this guy wearing a gray sweatsuit and black Converse and a black beanie with a white towel around his neck, running up the steps. And it was this couple that I had passed, and he had thrown his bag in his jacket and his camera at his wife so that she could take a picture of him dressed as Rocky running up the steps at dawn. It was so bizarre. It was truly one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And it was disconcerting because I turned around and he was there in the outfit. And I was like, Rocky? Like,
Could he have passed for Sly Stallone or no? Was he no? All right.
He was just
like,
a TikToker looking for new followers.
He was like a middle-aged guy. The whole dream of his life clearly was to go to the Philadelphia Museum of Art steps and run up the steps dressed as Rocky.
Well, if I go there, I'm dressing up as Ben Franklin and running up the steps.
And his wife apparently is an unwilling accomplice in this.
Yeah,
in this
Yes.
dream.
he got me up how early? For
See,
what?
I mean,
Come on, go up there, take the picture.
and this is why I get up early in the morning, because you can't beat seeing stuff like this.
Mhm.
They would have had to
you know?
videotape me and videotape.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this is going to come up in their counseling at some point.
And then that time in Philadelphia.
So, but we did end up, of course, we did take a picture by the statue, and, we went to Pat's, which is the
Cheesesteaks.
supposedly original cheesesteak was invented, where Rocky went in the movie with Tony Gazzo, and we went to the South 9th Street Italian Market, which is actually just pretty cool in general. If I lived closer, I'd be buying a lot of stuff on a regular basis. There's a lot of places to eat. Every 5 feet, there's a historic site. The day we went to Independence Hall, and we just happened to turn on a different street from where we'd gone before, and we went past like the house where Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence.
Did you see the map on the back of it?
No, there's no map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. We did go to the National Archives also. Okay, I looked at it.
Okay. They didn't let you see the back. Stop yourselves.
Well,
Benjamin
welcome
Cage.
everybody. If you haven't already worked it out.
We are knee deep in Philadelphia talk right
Yes, we are.
Philly.
Because Christina hasn't been with us for a few
Mhm.
weeks. For those
I'm
that have been paying attention, she's back.
I'm
She's
back. Hey, Jeff, although
Yes.
also in the National Archives gift shop, they too
Yes.
have embraced the pop culture, because they have like a special code on the back of their copies of the Declaration of Independence in the gift shop.
A special
So-
code?
Yes.
So what, like takes you to like a website?
I don't
Like a
know. I
map?
didn't buy it, but
Oh,
you could
no,
buy
no.
you could buy the poster, and it said like, you could get a special code, and there's like a National
Interesting.
Treasure poster hanging above.
There you go. Well, you gotta lean into that. Why
thing.
not? Why
trying
not?
to make our most important documents more interesting to the youth of
No.
America.
Listen, everything's a conspiracy theory. That's right.
And we're also trying to create a through line here, because this is all about Nicolas Cage today.
Oh, look at that. We connected the dots.
Yes, we did.
I did see though that the Disney show National Treasure was just canceled after season 1. I don't think any of us watched it. Maybe that's
well,
why.
hey, bring Cage into it, and then you got me.
Yeah,
But
well, that's not going to happen now. He's busy. He's got things going on here.
talk about things going on. Our co-host is part of a new anthology that's just out. Twice Cursed. It's not just cursed; it's twice cursed.
Yes.
Twice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not
Mhm.
once, but twice.
Yes. So among luminaries such as Neil Gaiman and Joe Hill, we find our own Christina Henry.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. It was just released this week. My story is called Pretty Maids All in a Row. Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. You see, we just don't fluff up strange authors on this show. We have a homegrown one right
Mhm.
here that we can
True.
that we can promote. So
who never promotes their own stuff.
I know. I was
Who
like,
are
oh
the
wait,
worst?
Jim is mentioning.
Oh
this
wait,
book.
yes, you're right. I guess I did have a book come out this week. Me shouting up from the rooftops.
yeah,
I would have been handing them out the top of the friggin' stairs in Philadelphia. And you get a book. I'll be like Oprah. I'd be handing them out to that Rocky guy.
Twice Cursed. So everybody look for that.
Thanks, Jim.
Very cool.
You're welcome. Before we go on, do we have any news today?
We do. Do you want to talk about what we're actually going to talk about? We will be hanging out with the Prince of Darkness. I believe we are actually going to start with Renfield.
Mhm.
Yes.
And then
yes.
follow up with Vampire's Kiss. But since we're going to be doing some monster talk, I thought our news items would stay in that vein. So first up, sequel to Godzilla versus Kong has officially got a subtitle. It is now Godzilla X Kong, or times Kong. I don't know what the X.
Okay.
But it's the subtitle is The New Empire.
What is the square root of Godzilla and Kong?
Yeah, I
wonder.
mean, I don't know where this X is coming in, but Adam Wingard is coming back as director, and this thing's dropping March of next year, 24. So less than a year. There's a little teaser trailer. I don't want to get into it because I know Jim doesn't like.
Yeah,
spoilers.
I saw it.
Oh, you saw it. This one you saw it. It doesn't give away much, but
it's like a bad monkey. It's a bad monkey, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that obviously maybe the human element will go away a little bit, and we'll just get more monster on monster action. Maybe a little more history of the Titans. I know Christina's already scowling over there because she was not a big fan of Godzilla versus Kong.
Well.
No, I think she wasn't a big fan of Godzilla King of the Monsters.
I don't think I've liked any American Godzilla film.
Man, it's tough you got to separate yourself, but
I can't. And I was even madder after Shin Godzilla. That was all, because Shin Godzilla was so good. And then it's like, why am I getting this wet garbage when we could have a Shin Godzilla sequel?
Garbage?
Now that's strong.
Ouch.
That's strong.
Wow. I do like what Legendary's doing.
I like the Kong. I thought Kong Skull Island was great.
Okay. Yes, I agree.
Like, no
Absolutely.
arguments there. I thought they did great there, but Godzilla vs. Kong was okay. But,
okay.
Fair
enough.
And speaking of Shin Godzilla, we've got a date from Fathom Events for Shin Kamen Rider now.
Yay!
Oh, ooh.
One day.
We don't
not
get
two.
Okay.
May 31st.
Memorial Day weekend?
So mark your calendars.
Is it like a Sunday?
It's a Wednesday.
They can't bury this anymore.
No, they buried it. Is it May? Oh, no, I guess it wouldn't be Memorial Day weekend. It'd be coming off the weekend, but still.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
Let's see what we can do. We'll get there.
Not on sale yet, but I've signed up for notifications once they do go on sale.
So also, Melissa Barrera, who we just saw in the last Scream as Sam, apparently she is going to be in an upcoming monster movie with Universal, being described as The Invisible Man meets Renfield. So I'm not really sure what that means.
Okay.
But from what I understand, it's a take on Dracula's daughter.
Well, after I don't want to say disastrous, but there's no other way to put it, box office that Renfield unfortunately has gotten, this may be rethought.
Yeah, one more news item, and then we can talk about that, which is Guillermo del Toro is doing a Frankenstein adaptation for Netflix. And apparently,
an animated one?
No, Oscar Isaac, Andrew Garfield, and Mia Goth are all lining up for this.
Okay.
It sounds like it's live action. So I don't know. I mean, we talked about Robert Edgar's Nosferatu in production a couple weeks ago. So
starring Nicholas Hoult, by the way.
Nicholas Hoult, yes.
He's going to be the Harker character.
Like maybe these we're getting some traction on this.
Did you guys see a preview for The Last Voyage of the Demeter?
Yes, I have it in my notes. It looked really good.
That looked like
it looked like the thing on a ship.
A missing hour and a half, maybe, if I don't know what the length of this thing is going to be, from 1992's Dracula. It's like, oh, there's the missing scene.
Yeah.
Because it looked like Gary Oldman.
In the gap. We're just filling in the gap. Yeah, no, it's a really nice design. Again, these trailers just show way too much. It's almost a 3-minute trailer.
Well, I mean, but you know what happened. If you've read Dracula, you know what happened to the Demeter. I mean,
it's not there's probably a lot of people who don't know.
It's not a happy ending. Yeah, it's not going to be a happy ending.
This is like 120-year-old spoilers.
Yes.
So
we don't need to watch it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, this actually goes to something that I've been seeing a lot this week, because I don't watch Succession. But apparently a lot of people were very upset about an article that was published on Vulture after the episode came out, quote unquote, spoiling some major plot point. I was listening to a discussion about this on another podcast, and the person who was speaking brought up the point that, like, your experience of a story is more than plot points. You know, there's more to a movie than just plot. And I talk about this a lot because most movies hold no surprises for me. The reasons why you watch something or experience something are about more than just plot twists.
I don't know about that. I think I would be very upset if somebody told me, Darth Vader's Luke's father before I went to go see Empire Strikes Back.
That's not true.
Well, except that, you have to believe that people found that out. You have to believe that like I was very young when it came out, so I don't remember, but I'm sure that like other adults who saw that movie told
They
other
probably
people.
did,
but
but I thankfully wasn't.
Media,
Yeah,
right,
I thankfully didn't know.
No, and I'll tell you, I read the comic adaptation before I saw the movie, and they changed it. They don't tell you that. So it is a little bit of a shock.
Oh, let me tell you, when my son watched Empire Strikes Back for the first time, he was genuinely shocked at the end because he had no idea. And when Luke says, that's not true. That's not true. That's impossible. And he said, he looked at me and he said, that is impossible.
No, search your feelings, son. You know it to be true.
My son knew. We hadn't told him, but like,
I mean, it's in this.
He just knew.
It's there.
It's
a 40-year-old movie. Oh, but I get it. I stay off social media on Wednesdays and Thursdays because I really don't want to know all the little details about the last episode of Mandalorian or the last episode of Picard.
That's part of the joy for me. I still think that my experience is heightened 95% if I don't know spoilers going into it.
Yeah. And that's
just me.
But that also plays into you not watching the trailers because, like I say it every week, the trailers give way too much away. So you see things and then you're like, oh, well, I'm still waiting for this scene to show up. So sometimes it's better not knowing. Anyways, that is news. So let's go, monsters. Let's go, Renfield.
Renfield, yes.
So you're implying that this is not doing well in the theaters?
It is not, unfortunately. And I think we got lucky that we were able to see it as late as we did.
Because it may not be here next week.
It may not. It cost $65 million to make as of yesterday. Hasn't made $14 million back. Wow. It does have some pretty stiff competition in terms of Mario, which is just eating up everything.
Mario is a monster. I will tell you, I came out of my theater yesterday, not to cut you off, but I came out of my theater yesterday. There was a kid's birthday party going on. They were all going to see Mario and they were all in costumes. And in comes this little kid riding on a Yoshi. And I'm like, I could be the creepy guy and start taking pictures, but I didn't. But this movie's a month in now?
But obviously that's not the target market for Renfield. But I've been reading articles where adults are going to see Mario as well.
We'll be going to see Mario next week. I have many adult friends who have already told me that they've gone to see it.
When you went to the theater to see Renfield, was your theater pretty full or was it empty?
Nope. I had one other gentleman with me. I went to a 110 yesterday.
Well, we went to the 140 yesterday. So like Saturday afternoon. And the theater was almost full.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, then again, you're an outlier because you're in a major city. So I think that story is going to repeat itself. You got more people that are able to make it to the theater. Things tend to play better, I think, just in general in big cities. But out here, it's quote unquote in the sticks. That's where you get these eccentrics. I call them lovingly because I'm one of them. That will go out and seek a movie like this. And it'll be on their list of things to do. And I only had 3 other people, but they were laughing as much as I was. They were loving it. They wanted to be there. It wasn't just anybody showing up and like, this isn't my cup of tea and leaving. They were invested and they had a great time.
I actually want to talk about the weird experience that we had. So it wasn't showing at the Alamo, so we had to go to the Regal. And our Regal, and actually 99% of the theaters around here have assigned seating. And it's been like this for years. This is not new information. Okay.
Yes.
So
somebody was still shocked.
So it was like 5 minutes before the movie started. We come in, there's people sitting in our seats. And they were like settled in. They had like so much stuff. They had all this food. And I was like, these are our seats. They didn't fuss about it. They got up and moved. But I was like, come on. Like
where were their actual seats?
2 rows in front of us. So
they could have been behind you.
And are the seats clearly marked, like with numbers?
Of course. Yes. Regal has They've got numbers on each one of the clearly seats, marked. And the rows are marked.
So they moved. Okay, fine. They didn't fuss about it, but you could tell they were kind of aggravated that we'd actually showed up and like taken our seats. But this is what was interesting. As the previews are running, more people are coming in, right? This was just one of these movies where for some reason a lot of people didn't show up before the film started. They were kind of like coming in during the previews. And in the row in front of us, there were two guys sitting, and then there was like a space with two seats, and then there was two girls to the right of those two seats. And as the previews are almost ending, a very large party of about 5 or 6 people comes in and is going to sit in that row in front of us. And the same thing happens again. The two girls were sitting in their seats and had to move to the two empty seats that were like right in front of us. And I'm saying to myself, what is going on today? Like, this is, like I said, this is not new information. Like, these are assigned seats. You pick your seat when you buy your ticket. Why are people just suddenly deciding that they don't feel like sitting in their assigned seats? They're just going to roll the dice maybe. And like, this
was
is
it National Steal a Seat Day?
And it's not like that they actually had seats in the front row and they were doggedly determined to get better seats. It's like two rows over, which is no difference in your viewing experience whatsoever.
I think what was happening was people were trying to get like space away from other people, but it's like you can see the tickets, what tickets are available. That spacing is not there. You know what I mean? I understand you don't necessarily want to like sit next to somebody, but this is just the reality of the situation. You can't just decide you want to sit wherever you want.
In a lot of these movies that we go to, they are playing on the hour every hour.
Yes.
So just go to the next movie, wait a half an hour and go to the next movie instead of
you can literally go to the concession stand and ask them, what's the capacity right now? Oh, we're 60%. Can I see the seating?
But Renfield. Renfield.
Yes. So I think we all knew what we were getting into based on the trailer.
Yes. Yeah. This is dumb fun. And I had a stupid grin on my face the whole time. Yeah, characterization isn't really there. The characters' motivations are kind of murky. It's just the movie only exists to give you a good time and to make you guffaw. And in that, it served its purpose for me. I see all these reviews that are coming out that criticize its script, that criticize the plot, that criticize the characters, and I get that, but I still liked it.
I think the problem that I had with it was not like that it was dumb fun, but like there's no connective tissue between these scenes. And I actually really felt it in the scene where Quincy drives away. By the way, did you notice her dad's name was Morris Quincy? Quincy Morris is the cowboy in Dracula who sacrifices himself at the end of the book. And her dad's name is Morris Quincy, so it was clearly a reference back to Dracula. Anyway, okay.
Sorry, it was lost.
Some people don't reread Dracula every year, apparently.
No,
just me.
It was lost on me.
And Quincy, she drives away from when all the cops show up to like take Renfield away, with who she has in the back of her squad car. And then like she drives away and it's like, oh, everybody go after her. And then you see nothing. And then they're suddenly in his apartment.
Yeah.
And she has a wound, which is not really clear how she got.
Right.
And
yes.
And there's like nothing connecting those two scenes together. And a lot of times I'm like, I think movies can be shorter, but this movie could have used like 10 extra minutes.
What's funny is that when the movie was over, I was like, that's it?
93 minutes.
I'm like,
baby,
it felt like I was in there for 20 minutes.
Yeah, 93 minutes.
But that's because I think, having such a good time. It just went by like that. But yeah, motivating factors aren't really there. The most fleshed out character is Dracula himself. Yes. And that's
and Nicolas Cage is having a blast with this. I'm gonna side on Jim's. This was silly. It was over the top. It was stupid, but I enjoyed it immensely. And I probably did have a grin on my face as well.
I laughed out. I don't normally laugh out loud for like comedies.
I've only got one other guy in the theater behind me, and I didn't hear him chuckle once, but I did out loud. I guffawed a couple times.
So, and we were talking at the top about spoilers and trailers giving away too much. And the whole crux of this is based around the group therapy sessions. They keep coming back to that. Obviously, that was what the trailers also focused on. So you knew Dracula was going to come into this and decimate everybody. So I was a bit disappointed with that because it took a while for them to get there in the movie. I'm like, well, I know he's going to come. Yeah.
Quick. I hate to say it falls apart when you really start thinking about it. And it's just one action sequence to the other. And you're right, Christina, you brought up that whole scene where they're on the run. The whole police squad is against them. And yet they go back to his apartment.
Yeah.
And they are able to have this tete-a-tete for 20 minutes just to lead into another action sequence.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like you basically go from action sequence to action sequence with very little to tie them together.
And characters are just thrown at you as well. Like Awkwafina's character.
I loved Awkwafina.
Well, yeah, so did I. But you're like, is she it looks like she's a traffic cop. Is she a detective? So you have to figure that out as you're going along. Yeah. And then Ben Schwartz as Lobo, they just throw him in. I'm like, okay, I think he's he's the son of this woman. So,
they don't really tell you right. And then you meet the mom and you're like, wow, that's a 2.5 pack a day voice right there.
I love her voice. Sure.
Oh, she was on 24. Barrows.
She was in, if you've ever saw The House of Sand and Fog, that's the first time I ever saw her. She's such a great actress.
Yeah, no, I thought she held her own. She definitely was the.
And I love Ben Schwartz. He's just one of my favorite performers. I think he's just incredibly funny no matter what he does. But I feel like even he doesn't really have a chance to do what he does best here. And that's to the detriment of the film. I enjoyed it fine, but I still wish there was a little bit more substance.
You feel like there's a director's cut out there. That's
I feel it. It doesn't even have to be that much longer. Like I said, 10 minutes, I think would have made a difference. Like a minute here, a minute there.
Like when they were even at the end when they ended up back in the basement. At first, I'm like, wait, did they somehow magically get back to the hospital?
You see, I was looking at this as an action movie. At some point, I'm like, okay, this is like Hard Target. And
it's a gory comedy. I will tell you, I love the opening montage where they put these guys into the original Dracula footage.
Yes.
Some of that stuff was a lot of fun.
That was seamless. I'm like, did they actually recreate these scenes or did they CGI them in? And it's like, wow.
Unbelievable now with deep fakes and CGI. But William Ragsdale shows up as the elderly priest at the beginning of the movie. That's Fright Night. Dude, I liked it.
Well, that was the other thing. They set this in New Orleans, and don't you think they would have used like the flavor of that city a little more?
You go to Cafe du Monde, you got it. You're there, so you're right.
I'm going to bring it up again. Hard Target gave you more New Orleans than this movie did.
Have either of you gone to New Orleans? It is one of my favorite cities. I've been there 3 times.
So this movie has like an elevator pitch of a plot. Like, Renfield is Dracula's familiar. And for those that watch What We Do in the Shadows, everybody should be very familiar with the familiar by this time. Yeah.
I was unfamiliar with the familiar.
So he's an enabler for Dracula, basically. He has superhuman strength and powers, which he derives from insects. Now, I was thinking to myself as I'm watching this, because like he gobbles down bugs like Popeye eats spinach in order to gain strength. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if he like gained like Peter Parker, the proportionate powers of that bug,
a cockroach
that he eats? Yes.
I could withstand a nuclear explosion.
He's second guessing what he's been doing over the decades. So it opens with a flashback with him narrating to the audience. I could have stopped him. Dracula's fighting this bishop. And maybe is it Van Helsing or some other vampire hunter? They have him in the
ring of
protection, circle of protection, I think it's called. And they've got him trapped and they are about to do away with Dracula. And they're telling Renfield, like, this is it. You're free now. You're free. We got him. Yeah, but nope, he spoils their plans. He frees Dracula. So Dracula doesn't come out of this flashback unscathed. He's burned to a crisp and he's got to take a few years to regain his strength. So Renfield brings him to New Orleans to lay low and to let him do just that. And he's bringing him victims, but he's kind of becoming, like, out of his guilt, he's becoming a self-proclaimed kind of superhero. He's only bringing him bad people.
Yeah, this is what I liked. It was the fact that he's hearing all these other people at this therapy session. He's like, these are the people that need to be saved. So I'm just going to target all these bad guys that they're complaining.
Yeah, and that was so funny when they said when the girl was complaining about her boyfriend, and one of the things she says, he likes ska. And,
Oh, I know. There's a whole thing on ska.
And yeah, then I got a perfect picture of what this guy was.
Is that the music with all the horns?
That's when we get introduced to Ben Schwartz's character, because this girl's boyfriend is involved in some shady dealing. So Ben Schwartz's character, Teddy Lobo, is part of a crime family in New Orleans, and the girl's boyfriend has stolen drugs from them. Renfield goes to bring them to Dracula. He gets mixed up with Teddy Lobo and the Lobo family, and
By the way,
so does Dracula.
his name is Tedward.
Tedward. I saw I saw that on IMDb. Tedward.
And these opening scenes, as Jeff says, are great because Dracula is still reconstructing when you first see him in the modern day. So his face is already only half there, and Nicolas Cage is kind of slurring through his dialogue through the makeup.
I'm waiting for those ears to fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked like the guy at the end of RoboCop that fell into the toxic waste at one point.
But you see Renfield's powers, and this is, I think, lends itself to a lot of the comedy in the movie. When he eats the bugs and he punches people, he literally punches their heads off. And there's one particular scene a little bit later on where he's taking on a few bad guys. He rips
in the apartment complex.
In the apartment complex, he rips one guy's arms off and impales another with the arms.
It was so over the top, ridiculous.
Rips a guy's face off. That made me laugh out loud. The face ripping scene, just because it took me unawares.
Yeah, this is cartoon.
Now, these powers, I assume they're given to him by Dracula with his blood or what have you. But I would think that once Dracula is destroyed, Renfield wouldn't have the power anymore, or he would grow old. But no, that's not the case. He's just the same Renfield at the end of the movie.
Right.
And they go off.
We know.
As far as we know.
I mean, they don't say it either way, but yes, normally if the vampire dies,
familiar.
Or Awkwafina is now going to have a very old boyfriend on her hands.
Who's that, your grandfather?
Awkwafina's character of Quincy, the traffic cop as she is, we find that out. She gets wrapped up with Renfield and helps him break the bonds that Dracula has on him throughout the movie. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing more to this.
Bare bones. Well, I did see that Nicolas Cage has gone on multiple interviews, and he's always had his dream jobs, Superman, Dracula, and Captain Nemo. I guess we just have Captain Nemo left now.
I'd love to see him do a Captain Nemo.
Yes, I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was great in this.
Yeah, he was. And I couldn't help but think of not Dracula when I'm watching him, but Lon Chaney in London After Midnight, that infamous lost film that unfortunately was burned in a fire in 1967 and none of us will ever get to see. But I've seen, probably the same stills that everybody else out there has seen a million times in all my monster books as a kid. And Lon Chaney with his hollowed out eyes and his top hat and his row of sharpened teeth. Yeah. And that was very reminiscent of what Nicolas Cage looks like in this movie.
So I listened to an interview with Nicholas Hoult where he talked about how he asked Nicolas Cage what he was drawing from for this character. And the two major influences that Nicholas Hoult claims that Cage had were his father, August Coppola, which is interesting because his very specific diction in Vampire's Kiss was also drawn from his father, and Anne Bancroft in The Graduate.
Oh,
that's a very interesting take.
Yeah. And I can kind of see where he's coming from, where he's sort of thinking of that character of Mrs. Robinson as a very predatory character, and that he was trying to channel that energy as Dracula, which I think you feel more at the end when he's trying to convince various people to be on his side. But Nicholas Hoult has actually worked with him before in The Weatherman when he was about 16 years old.
I still can't believe he's the same kid from About a Boy.
Well, he was also Beast in the last X-Men movie, so he already had some experience bouncing around on the stage.
Yes, although he did say that the stuntmen taught him some new things. They taught him how to do like a certain kind of roll and also how to do a backflip.
Nicolas Cage does have one standout scene, I think, that shines above everything else. His monologue in Renfield's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
When Dracula suspects that something's going on with him.
No,
And
he's got his own apartment.
And he claims he's like, I'm the real victim here. You abandoned me. And then you get that little tidbit from him that he abandoned his wife and daughter for Dracula. It's like, you're the monster, not me.
Mm-hmm.
Tony has a bit of a point there. And then he visits, you get that trailer moment, about 3/4 of the way into this movie where he's like, who's putting these ideas into your head? So he goes to see for himself to Renfield's group therapy and he lays waste. But as you said, everybody, it's a happy ending. So you do get these people back again.
Apparently all wearing the same clothes that they died in.
Yeah.
With no blood or anything. Yeah, it's goofy. I enjoyed it. It was over the top, but it was entertaining for an hour and a half.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't ask that much of it, but unfortunately this, and I think the outlier is The Invisible Man, because that was, in my disbelief, a huge box office success. But this shared monsterverse that Universal had tried to create is just not working, unfortunately.
Well,
and
this movie tonally, these are two different movies.
Yeah, I don't see how, even if this was a huge hit, I don't see how this could fit into some overarching monsterverse,
No.
I think this was always meant to be a standalone, but it hasn't done well. They failed with the Tom Cruise Mummy. Invisible Man, they probably got their hopes up with that one. And now Renfield has not done well with this. So what they're going to try next with their shared monsterverse, or if it will be a shared monsterverse from this point going forward, is anybody's guess.
Well, I just listed at the top of the show a handful of movies that are in development. So whether any of those tie in to anything, I have no idea. But
I remember when The Invisible Man came out that there was talk about Karen Kusama, who directed Jennifer's Body, doing a Dracula film. And I was pretty excited about that. But then it was canceled. And I'm not sure why, because that was, after the success of Invisible Man. I don't know if it was because they decided to do this Renfield movie instead or what. I certainly would have liked to have seen her take on Dracula.
If we're ready for buckets on this thing already, I am going to give it 3.5 for Renfield. 3.5 popcorn buckets out of 5.
Imagine you 3.5.
I'm going to say 3. I like everybody in this film.
They are likable.
I wanted more connection.
What you wanted? More nuns or cheerleaders? Busload of cheerleaders?
I think I just wanted to see any single one of the dangling plot threads come to fruition. I just feel like there were all these things sort of hanging out there that were never resolved in any way.
Directed by Chris McKay. Lego guy.
The Tomorrow War, he also directed with Chris Pratt, that Netflix movie.
We don't talk about that.
I didn't watch that.
We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Batman Lego movie will still be at the top of his resume after Renfield.
Listen,
let's go to the concession stand. Did they have any vampire or blood-themed concessions that you could find, Christine?
Well, guess what we're doing?
What are we doing?
We are doing another liquid, although it's called the Icee.
The Icee.
Yes.
Not the slushy.
This is what's interesting. I have some interesting information about the Icee and the slushy.
Yeah.
Pretty much every concession stand you go to in the country has an Icee machine. And you can get, a cherry flavored one. So it does sort of look like blood, right?
Is this the one with the polar bear as the...
Yes.
Okay.
It has the polar bear. So this is one of those treats that has a very funny kind of slightly apocryphal story behind it. Supposedly... There's 3 different versions of this story, so I'm going to give you all of them. A man named Omar Nedlick, who owned a Dairy Queen in Coffeyville, Kansas in 1958, and his soda fountain stopped working. And of course this is a problem because, broken equipment. So he improvised. He put bottles of soda into his freezer and sold them from there.
And they froze.
while sitting in the freezer, they had like a kind of slushy consistency that people really liked. That's one version of the story. That's, I think, the main story that the company tells. Another version posits that he didn't have a soda fountain at all, and he always sold his sodas partially frozen. And then another version says that he ran out of cold soda bottles during rushes and threw them in the freezer for a rapid chill, and people like the slushy consistency. No matter which version of this story that you like, the customers loved it. And he thought there must be a wider market for it, but he needed to come up with a kind of a machine basically where you could make this consistently. So he put together like a kind of prototype machine made out of an old ice cream machine and a car's air conditioning unit because he needed freezing water and carbon dioxide. So he said any liquid increases in density when pressurized, and then the release of the pressure causes it to freeze. So the mix in the machine was placed under a certain degree of pressure, and then it was sold at 28 degrees per cup. So he marketed it as the coldest drink in town, and he used existing flavors like root beer and cola. He wanted to give it a fun name. He tried to call it Fizzies, but apparently Kellogg's had a product called Fizzies and issued him a cease and desist order.
So he did actually call it, he called it Fizzies for a limited amount of time.
Yes.
It began life as Fizzies.
Yes. And then he enlisted the help of a friend, Ruth Taylor, who devised the name Icee and generated the idea of the iconic logo, although the logo eventually came from an ad agency who developed it further. Obviously, the early version of the machine needed some work if it was going to be mass marketed, because you can't ship like a car's air conditioning
So where was this again? Where was he based?
Kansas.
In Kansas. And what year did he devise this?
In 1958, supposedly, was the foundation of the idea.
So this was the only place that you could get a drink like this initially, when he had this prototype machine.
Yes. So then he eventually enlisted the aid of the John E. Mitchell Company in Dallas to make a mass market version of this machine. But it didn't sell well at first, partially because it was too big and partially because it cost $3,000.
Ouch.
But then they kept tweaking the design, making it smaller and smaller and smaller. And then once they got to a version of the machine that was easy to transport and install, they patented it. And then all of a sudden they went from basically having no demand to huge demand. They had a back order of 2,000 machines. So it was once they finally perfected the tech in a way that could be easily exported to other places, suddenly there was a huge demand for it.
Were they selling these exclusively in Dairy Queen?
No, they were selling it all over the place.
So does this guy Nedlick, and I just get a vision of Urkel when I hear this name, but does he own the patent?
The Mitchell Company owns the patent.
Okay.
Because they actually made the machine. I want to talk about Slurpees, right? So in 1966, 7-Eleven made a deal with Icee to sell their product. There were only two conditions. They had to use a different name, and they can only sell it in the USA. And what is the difference between an Icee and a Slurpee? Nothing.
The cup.
It is the exact same product. It's the exact same product. It is the exact same machine.
That is a
flavors.
dirty little secret. The Icee and the Slurpee is the same thing.
Yes.
You heard it here first.
Soylent Greenest people.
They are the exact same product. It's just Slurpee is 7-Eleven's proprietary brand.
What about the slushie? What's that? Is that different, or is that the same?
Did not find anything specific about the slushie, but I think slushie is just a name for I don't think slushie is a brand name.
Like slushie might be like a Kleenex,
right.
catch-all kind of a name.
Slurpee is kind of like a catch-all
Right.
at this point.
Well, maybe we'll
So-
have to save Slushy for a future episode then.
Slushy. I will tell you, I'm very happy that my Regal fixed their Icee machine and that I now have Coke.
Is it called an Icee machine in your Regal? Have you ever noticed that? Or are you just taking that for granted? Oh, that's an Icee machine.
Oh no, when I go to Regal, I see Icee symbol.
Really? You see,
Yeah.
the connotation in my head, when I think of the word Icee, I think of Kmart and that bear, because I could always get the extremely salty popcorn at Kmart, and then you would need the Icee just to get that popcorn
Chase
down.
it, yeah.
So I
Is
always
it?
assumed that Icee and Kmart were like in cahoots, that they owned it or something, but I guess not.
Nope, they sell them everywhere. They sell them in Target. They sell them like all over the place. Like pretty much wherever you go, there's an Icee machine. There are, according to Icee's official fact, over 150 unique flavors, but there's only about 30 flavor options available at any given time.
So they rotate them? They're seasonal?
They rotate them. And they sell over 500 million drinks per year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it. If those are official Icee machines and Regals, then there's your numbers right there.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm
what
good
about
for 50,000 a year?
what about our bear? Who
The
came
bear-
up with the bear?
The bear was the idea of Ruth Taylor, who came up with the name for the product, and she suggested the bear. And initially, the bear was a cute little bear cub, and eventually, it was tweaked by an ad agency into like the fun-loving polar bear we see today. You know, Jeff, you were just talking about how when your flavor is not available.
Yeah.
So in the patent, it outlines the inner workings of the machine. The reason why the flavors can be temporarily unavailable is because the machine is going through a defrost cycle. So
My machine was defrosting for about a year and a half. So I hope that
if you want to hear
the cherry's always available. It doesn't matter. The cherry's always there.
it has been found that even with the viscosity, temperature, and pressure controls, that over a period of time, the ice crystals in the liquid get too big. So if the ice crystals are too big, the drink doesn't have a good quality. So they
Yeah.
have to defrost the drink machine to melt the ice crystals, and then they start over
I
again.
want to know who invented the oversized straw with a slight shovel end on it, because that is genius.
Yes,
you
it
can't
is.
those paper straws don't do that.
No, they don't.
No, those paper straws disintegrate in an Icee in about 2 trailers.
And I'm looking at, just to reacquaint myself with the Icee bear, I'm looking at a photo of him right now, and there he is.
Got sunglasses on?
He's got the red Letterman's like jughead sweater with the big eye on the front. He's ready. He's got an Icee in his hand.
Yep,
I think the
he's-
Slushy has a penguin. Or no, am I wrong?
the Slurpee, you mean?
Is it the Slurpee? Okay, maybe not.
I don't
not
know.
looking. I'm
No,
not doing
hey,
research. I'm pulling off the
Slurpee,
top of my head.
Slurpee should keep Dom DeLuise as their mascot after Cannonball Run. He did more for the Slurpee than anybody in history,
You think
I
so?
think. Yep.
Just as a final note, this is not the healthiest drink you can ever drink.
No.
It has 24 grams of sugar in a 12-ounce serving.
No matter what the flavor is?
In the cherry flavor.
Oh, in the
that's-
cherry.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's sort of the
that's sugar.
standard,
Yeah,
right?
That's
That's a lot of sugar for a 12-ounce beverage. And most people get like a 32-ounce. So
oh yeah,
multiply.
like the gallon size. Yeah. Nice.
Men's Health apparently positioned it at number 15 on its list of the worst drinks on the planet because of its size and its like the quantity of sugar inside of
It's
it.
still below Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I just thought, let's do a drink. We haven't done a drink yet.
No.
There are quite a lot of drinks at the concession stand, and it does have a red flavor, so I thought that would
There
be
you
fun
go.
to go
Well
with
paired.
Yeah.
Dracula.
Yeah.
This was my choice when we did Shazam until I saw the movie and then said we had to do Skittles. Because it ties directly into the movie.
Now, Regal serves Pepsi. They do
Yes,
not
correct.
serve Coke.
Correct.
So I'm wondering, because AMC serves Coke. So I don't think that there's a deal with Icee on either of those brands. It's really the movie theater. It's just depending on where you go, because AMC serve slushies. I don't know if they're Icees, but they do serve slushies. You can get a Coke slushie at an AMC. So I wonder if they're Iceys as well.
When you're saying slushy, are you saying like
A frozen
slush puppy?
Like a frozen drink, like an
Well, a
Icee.
slush puppy is more like a snow cone.
Because slush puppy is like another product that's actually made by J&J Snack Foods, which now owns.
No,
it's
I'm
Icee.
saying
11.
I'm saying
Okay.
that if you go to your Regal and you get an Icee, it's a Pepsi. If
It's
you want the
Pepsi.
soda flavor, it's a Pepsi.
Right.
But, so I'm wondering if Iceys are available at AMC where you can get a Coke Icee.
I don't know. I never go to AMC, so
We'll have to look next time we go to Danbury, Jeff. We'll have to look.
All right, we're on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's over 75,000 Icee machines across America in McDonald's, Subway, Walmart, Burger King, Sam's Club, Target, Wawa, which Philadelphia reference there. There's Wawas all over
Not
Philadelphia.
Jersey. They're all over Jersey.
Quick Check, Rainforest Cafe, Cineworld.
They still exist, Rainforest Cafe?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because we saw one in at the Mall of America. Yes, they still exist.
Fair enough.
They're pretty much ubiquitous. Like and honestly, on a really hot day, there's nothing better than an Icee.
Yeah, and brain freeze. When you develop brain freeze, is your go-to the thumb on the roof of the mouth?
You're supposed to put your tongue on the roof of your mouth.
I don't think
Press your
I've ever experienced brain freeze.
Ever?
You've never had a
Ever.
brain
What?
freeze?
No. As a matter of fact, I think it's a hoax because I've
you-
never
No,
experienced
it's
it.
not a hoax. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's not.
There's a lot of people out there right now going, Jim.
Is your vagus nerve broken? 'Cause
Yeah, I'm out in the woods. I'm looking at Bigfoot and I'm experiencing a brain freeze at the same
There
time.
you go. Yes. So, all right, cool. That was a great episode. Thank you very much, everybody. Talk to you next week.
do you not want to talk about Vampire's Kiss?
Let me tell you. Okay, so let's leave the concession stand and let's go back to the theater and let's sit down for Vampire's Kiss. Now, this is a movie that I've read a ton about it. I've never actually seen it until this viewing. A great
You
excuse.
chose this?
Well, no, I don't know if I chose it, but
I
it's
said it. It's my fault.
it seems to be a natural pairing, an obvious pairing.
Well,
you
it's
know.
an obvious pairing.
And like every review of Renfield, they mention Vampire's
You can't
Kiss.
help it. I mean,
So,
he's
yeah.
basically right. This is my first viewing as well.
Yeah. Not what I expected. Not what I expected at all. Here I am thinking I'm going to see like a goofy Peggy Sue Got Married, Nicolas Cage, oh yeah, I know he's overacting. I know he's going gonzo because I've read all this stuff about it. But this movie is dark and disturbing, but not in a fulfilling way. It's disturbing in a very unpleasant way, mostly because the character itself is reprehensible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to get behind this character.
Yes.
Although you're at a distance, you're appreciating his performance and some of the stuff that he's pulling out of his bag, but you can't relate to this character whatsoever. Yeah, it's a tough watch. It's a tough watch.
So the interesting thing here, and I'm sure you guys picked up on this, is that the Joseph Minion, the screenwriter, also wrote After Hours.
Makes complete sense. Complete sense.
And I'm actually not that fond of After Hours. I actually think this is a better movie, partially because it's anchored by this completely wild but believable, very committed performance from Nicolas Cage, who's only about 24 years old here when he made this, which is like crazy to think about, right? They made this in 1988, even though it wasn't released until 89. And
he looks like a child in this movie.
Yes. Yeah. But he already had, I mean, you already mentioned Peggy Sue Got Married.
Oh, Valley Girl was years before this.
Yes.
And Raising Arizona. So he's
Yes.
already got some street creds.
So that was the whole thing. So he made this after he had made Raising Arizona and Moonstruck, which were basically, really big films for him. And his agent did not want him to take this part. And he was really, really uncomfortable with the way he was being treated by the press after Moonstruck. And there was a quote from a LA Times profile that came out after Moonstruck where he said, I feel like there's a big wet fish slapping itself against the inside of my head right now. Things have changed quite a bit in the past 3 weeks, and I don't know what to make of all the attention the film is receiving. He was very disconcerted by the idea that people were treating him as some kind of like heartthrob after Moonstruck. And he didn't want that. He didn't want to be treated that way. So what he did was he went out and found the weirdest possible
he found it all right.
That he could make. But you know, what's interesting, and this is a quote from The Age of Cage, which I mentioned to you guys when we did Face Off and the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. However Cage's performance, he was coloring in the lines. The movie was weird before he got there. And like a lot of the weirdness actually comes from the screenplay itself, because there's a huge disconnect between what might actually be happening and what his character, Peter Lowe, thinks is happening.
But you don't really pick up on that until toward the end of the movie. And he's making choices here. Like you had already mentioned that he was basing this performance on his father, the accents.
He did apparently about 10 or 15 years after the movie came out, he actually did a commentary for the DVD release. And in the commentary, he said his father, August Coppola, quote, made a decision at some point to speak with distinction, and to me it always sounded absurd, although now I understand. So he was actually trying to copy his father's accent in some way.
Just I 10 minutes in, I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's like an over-the-top gay British car salesman.
But I also read
so
that
flamboyant
that it's actually a put on by the character.
Right.
Like you can hear this accent drop in some scene.
I just thought that was his bad acting skills.
No. The character was trying to impress other people by putting on this accent.
Well, it didn't impress me at all. This movie is horrible. I hated this movie. This is my Condor Man.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
This movie blows.
This is so funny.
I know, because I know that you chose this and you're going to come and you're going to defend this. And I hate to say this. After watching this, I'm like, how did this guy ever get work again? This is abysmal. He's an unlikable character. There's no plot whatsoever. He gets, I get it. You know, you get the twist at the end. Maybe everything that was in his head all along and never. It doesn't matter. I've now wasted an hour and a half of my life.
When I was watching this, I'm like, I'm watching American Psycho. This is exactly what happens in American Psycho.
Yes,
the movie.
But at least that has
more so than the book.
Good acting.
I think actually his acting is amazing here. And if you kind of think about what he's doing, when Prisoners of the Ghostland came out, I read an interview with him where he said he described his acting style as Western kabuki.
Yes, I remember that. And
he loves German expressionism. You can really feel that in this performance. This is almost like the foundational Nick Cage performance for like every wild thing he would do.
We've seen him do
later.
Other movies that are off the wall, you know. But Jim just got done saying that he was prepared for this performance because he had done reviews. He had read that people have criticized this for being eccentric, and there's a lot of things you can call this character. Eccentric is not one of them. But this was like a slap in the face with that fish that's bouncing around in his head. This was abysmal. I chuckled once at the mimes on the street.
Yeah, it's funny that it's billed as like a black comedy because that's not what this is. And it's strange because I think that the billing for After Hours is also that it's a black comedy. And the way you feel about this is the way I feel about After Hours. I could hardly watch After Hours, which I thought was really bad. But I felt like this was really anchored. I was so transfixed by Nicolas Cage. Like he's just so committed here.
He should be committed.
His performance is and
I get what you're saying, that the character is putting on this performance because he comes across like this big, you know, Wall Street tycoon, you know, in the 80s, and he's just a literary agent. He abuses this poor girl Alva to the point where you want to see this guy die.
Yes.
He
Yes.
but not only physically, mentally, he is assaulting her every chance he gets.
Yes.
It is brutal. And Jim said this. It's a tough movie to watch to begin with, but not knowing what the hell is going on or where this is, it's just
like it's almost like watching two different aspects of this guy's life: the private life with this becoming unraveled, and where he's trying to keep control by keeping control of Alva at his job. And that's where the accent really comes through, when he's trying to put on that he's some sort of an important figure in her life. And he even goes the scene where she is so traumatized by going to work, yet she's still forced into, being employed. She calls in sick, and he goes to her house apologetically. And then as soon as she's in the taxi, he starts haranguing her again. It's
because now he has her in his clutches. He convinced her to come back. She should be in that therapy class with Renfield.
Yes. And
because this guy is an abuser at every level.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Oh, Renfield would serve this guy up on a platter to Dracula.
At some point, one of the characters said, "I can't take this anymore." And I'm like, exactly. I can't take this. It really is.
And the scene that actually infuriates me above all is the scene after he's like chased her into the bathroom and he's terrorized her. And then all the male execs are
joking about it.
Joking about it. Yeah. Well, that's the culture of the 80s.
That culture still exists.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And that's why it's infuriating, because nothing has changed.
You know how I know this was all bullcrap? Is anytime he had an issue, bystanders would come over and try and help him. It's nobody does that. You mind your own business in Manhattan. You do not.
I mean, there was a lot of scenes where he was walking down the street talking to himself, and people were just ignoring him.
That's because it was guerrilla style. Those were real people. Those were real bystanders. They just stuck him on the street and said, "Go do your shtick. We got to get away from this crazy nut."
Yeah, and crazy he is, because it turns out that none of this is actually happening. The Jennifer Beals character of Rachel is a real character, but only up to a certain point. She's never actually a vampire the way that he sees it. And I think this whole journey begins with the bat coming into his apartment, and that somehow sets him off on this delusion.
Wait.
And again, I'm bringing Hard Target into this. We got Cassie Lemons here as Casey Lemons here as the girlfriend that he stands up.
She's so adorable. Like, what the heck is wrong with you? He's very dumb. She's so adorable. And she pretty quickly, like, she tells him off because he abandons her in the art gallery. And then she decides to give him one more chance because, he sounds very desperate on the phone. And then she's like, forget it. Stay out of my life. And good for her, because otherwise she could have ended up like the girl in the disco.
You're abusing these women left and right, and yet you're somehow mad that she...
And the girl in the disco. She's like, so if somebody's coming at you, skulking like Nosferatu with plastic teeth in his mouth, you don't laugh at him with amusement. I think you get up and move to another couch, but no, she did not.
So I have a little backstory on this movie. The writer, Joseph Minion, he wrote this with his girlfriend, Barbara Zitwer, who was one of the producers of the film. And they were in Barbados at the time. And she asked him to write a script, and then I guess she went home and he stayed there and like worked on the script. And he said, "I was just alone with my demons. I rented a typewriter and I pounded it out. For inspiration, he looked to his relationship with Zitwer, which he described as toxic."
Oh no.
And
no.
She said she saw herself in the script as well, much to her displeasure, but she still agreed to produce the film.
I'm going to produce this, but we're no longer dating. Thank you very much.
And then she hired the director, who was known for an HBO thriller called Apology. And
they should apologize.
And actually, in this little thing I'm reading, it says Lowe anticipates American Psycho's Patrick Bateman.
Definitely.
this doubles as a depiction of yuppie entitlement and how everyday misogyny can mask the presence of a madman intent on victimizing women. You know, it was very, very low budget. I think one of the things that's powerful about this film is despite the fact that his performance is absurd, he's still dangerous. He's dangerous. He rapes Alva. He murders that girl, right?
Yeah,
He's dangerous, you know, but nobody saw this.
No, but I feel sorry for those people that fell in love with him for Moonstruck and then went to go see this just because he was in it and then were traumatized, I'm sure.
So it didn't make it to theaters until June 2nd, 1989. At the height of its release, it could be found on 45 screens.
Ouch.
Playing to sparse crowds opposite Batman. It didn't even make it to video store shelves until August of the following year.
It only made $725,000 on a $2 million budget. So,
well, if you only have 45 screens, I think.
You're not making a lot of money. Yeah, I had no clue what I was getting in for. About the time he ate the cockroaches when my wife bailed, she's like, "I'm done. I'm out of here."
That's what I knew this movie for was the cockroach scene.
Oh, okay.
So,
because I guess he fought for that, and then after he did it, immediately regretted it.
But he ate two. Because there were 2 takes.
You got to make sure you got it. I did like the fact that he did tell Alva when he went out to go get her that it cost him $20 to come out. And yet when they went back into the city, it now cost him $44.50.
Maybe that was the round trip.
That was the round trip. Yeah.
Round trip. Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Fine. I'll buy that.
Talking about the connection to After Hours, the diner is the same diner as seen in After Hours, which figures heavily into that movie, only in one scene in this movie, but it's the same one. There's standout scenes when he recites the alphabet.
That is an out of control scene. She's like, "Oh, very good. You know your alphabet."
I know. Once he starts with the ABC, I thought to myself, I bet he's going to go through the whole alphabet. And he didn't disappoint me. He didn't disappoint me.
So I don't know if you saw this, but I did see, according to the casting director, Marcia Schulman, in order to get into character during his love scene with Jennifer Beals, which is really, there's no love scene. It's just dry humping. He asked to have hot yogurt poured over his toes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's not just some internet rumor.
No, that's also in Age of Cage. He was,
I'm going to try that.
He didn't want a mechanical bat for the bat scene. He wanted them to go out and find a real bat. He says
that was not a real bat.
No, it wasn't. No, because the director was like, it would be dangerous if you were bitten, so we can't have a real bat. He said in the audio commentary that he had a love-hate relationship with Jennifer Beals. And he said many years later, I wasn't the most pleasant person to be around while shooting this film.
Well, he probably stayed in character.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
Well, I also read that his girlfriend at the time auditioned and didn't make the Jennifer Beals part, Patricia Arquette.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons why he wasn't very pleasant around her.
Jennifer Beals, though.
Yeah, I know. She just came off as the Bride of Frankenstein a few years before this. We need her in the Universal Monsterverse.
There you go. Bring her back.
It's a very weird movie, but I think weird in the same way After Hours is. Which, like I said, I didn't care for After Hours, but I think this is much more compelling film. But apparently, overall, critics really did think his performance was great. Patrick Taggart said, what Vampire's Kiss is about is a particularly sick set of attitudes towards women. While individual men can get away with their poor treatment of women, the movie says such behavior hurts society. In the Dallas Morning News, Philip Wunsch saw in Peter's conviction that he's become infected an echo of the AIDS epidemic and praised Cage's performance, calling it the male equivalent of Betty Davis's Halloween charade in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Overall, critics really, I think, got what he was going for, but I think for the most part, audiences were repulsed.
Yeah, I guess I'm no critic because I was repulsed.
And it doesn't even come close of justifying what he's doing. But throughout the movie, he asks Alva to kill him, because he knows she has a gun. So it's almost as if he's doing this, torturing her to egg her on to take out the gun and shoot him, which of course, it has blanks. So she wouldn't have shot him anyway, even if.
But even a gun with blanks in your mouth is going to do some damage.
Right. But that leads to his conviction that he is a vampire because he thinks there's real bullets and that he killed.
And then, of course, the end is when her brother, Alva's brother, loses his mind once she tells him what's happened. He goes pay Mr. Lowe a visit and then comes into his apartment, finds the makeshift coffin, which is the upside down couch that he sleeps under. And he does do what he asks and stakes him with a wooden stake at the end of the movie, which will take care of anybody, not just a vampire, by the way.
Correct, yes. Well done.
And then we get the reveal that Rachel is never a vampire to begin with, just his delusion. Which all started. So you're wondering, is even the therapist a delusion?
No, I got the impression
mind
that the therapist wasn't even real.
Oh, so okay. Out of 5 buckets, what would we give to Vampire's Kiss?
Go ahead, Jeff. I think I gave Condor Man half a bucket for being a movie. So
I am giving this half a bucket.
Half a bucket.
Half a bucket. I applaud you for sticking to your guns and actually defending this movie.
I mean, I think obviously there's more than one way to see this movie.
No, I agree with you on that. And again, if I maybe had a little knowledge or backstory before just going into it,
like context, a little more context,
I might have come at it. No, this did not work for me at all. I did not like this.
I'm going to give it 2 buckets just as a curiosity, and the fact that probably 90% of the memes and GIFs out there of Nicolas Cage come from this movie. So I'm like, oh, that's where that's from. A train wreck of a performance it may be, it is hypnotizing. As much as I hate to say it, at the same time. So I'm going to give it 2 buckets just for that.
And I'm going to give it 3 3/4. I think without him, this movie is unwatchable.
Can you imagine? They had Dennis Quaid signed on to do this.
Yeah.
And he gave it up because he had a conflict with Inner Space. So I think he made the right choice for his career, at least. Could he even go that dark? I don't know. That would have been weird.
And I think, especially when you compare this side by side with American Psycho, which I think is a really interesting exercise. If you think about Christian Bale's performance in that, similarly over the top, like unhinged, particularly toward the end of the film. So I can't imagine an actor who's sort of as naturalistic as Dennis Quaid doing this kind of role.
Bizarre. All right. So, Christina, I think you're going to get your chance next week to maybe challenge your Condor Man buckets. But before we get there, what else did we do?
Are we all caught up on Mandalorian?
Yes.
Did we all watch the final episode of season 3?
Yes.
Yes.
We've all caught up.
We've all caught up.
Can we just give, I'll give up my choice of the week so that we can talk Mandalorian for 5 minutes.
You just want to talk about Mandalorian. Well, I do want to talk about something that I saw this week. My son and I went to see Suzume, which is a new anime by Makoto Shinkai, who also directed Your Name. It's a movie that is about a girl who encounters a young man who is going to an abandoned town. And in this abandoned town, there is a gate, capital G. And these gates open to a place called the Ever After. And they're supposed to be locked and closed so that the great worm that lives beneath Japan does not come forth and cause earthquakes. She follows this young man and accidentally releases the guardian who's supposed to keep the gate closed, who's like a keystone. And then she has a kind of very typical anime adventure, but it's very, very beautiful, very emotional story. And it's partially inspired by Shinkai's obsession with places that have been abandoned after earthquakes in Japan. He said he sort of became obsessed with like these ruined places. And it's just an incredibly gorgeous film. If you have a chance to see it on the big screen, I did see it at my Regal. Please try to go. It's really, really beautiful. And if you're not familiar with his work, you should go and watch Your Name, which is pretty widely available now.
Okay.
All right. Mandalorian,
Mm-hmm.
season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So before we start, if you have not watched all of The Mandalorian, there will probably be spoilers in this
That's
discussion.
why I asked, make sure that at least the 3 of us were on the same page.
There'll probably be spoilers here.
Oh, there's definitely going to be spoilers. I think tonally, compared to season 1 and 2, it's a little broader. I know there's a lot of complaints. A lot of people are really kind of down on it. But I think what Filoni and Favreau are doing is using this platform to establish the larger Star Wars world, kind of filling in the gaps with some of this sequel stuff with the Return of the Emperor and cloning, and obviously setting up Mandalore reclaiming with Bo-Katan. Although there were things that happened in the last episode I was not a fan of. And I will tell you, I did not like the episode. I don't like stunt casting. So bringing in Jack Black and Lizzo did nothing for me. Even Christopher Lloyd. It was a glorified episode of CSI.
Although that was what I liked about it. Like my son and I were watching it and we were like, this feels like a noir,
yeah.
You know,
which is funny because I think in the first 2 seasons, you know, like you were excited. Oh, who's directing this episode? And they were kind of leaning into some of those other genres. And then this one, it's very disjointed. And like I said, there's a lot of complaints about it, a lot of backlash, but I think it's because they are using this groundwork to kind of, you know, build out this larger picture with the Dr. Pershing and the whole rise of the New Order. But you made the Darksaber such a plot point just to have Gideon destroy it. I didn't like that. I don't know where that's going. Obviously, you know, Gideon gets blown up at the end, but we did see one of the clones open his eyes. So I'm speculating that it's not seen the last.
I thought those clones were going to be Snoke. I didn't think that they were going to be Gideon. I'm like, that's where they get Snoke from, because
at least the technology is now out there, so that's why the idea of Snoke and the idea of the Emperor coming back, you know, they're laying these little breadcrumbs that are kind of connecting the dots.
And, you know, it's revealed that that's the reason why he wanted testing done on Grogu in the first place. So he could use his DNA, his force-laced DNA to translate into these clones.
But what I think was interesting about the end of the series is that it felt like they're trying to like wrap up these sort of like plot threads for existing fans from like people who'd watched the Clone Wars, and then reset it, because it felt like the end was a big reset, right? He's going to be a bounty hunter again, and he's gonna, you know, but this time he's going to work for the New Republic.
But then again, you know, these storylines, these little breadcrumbs that they've laid out for us can carry through in Ahsoka. They can carry through, and you know, some of these other shows that they got lined up. We talked last week. There's, you know, they're doing another set of movies. Not a trilogy, but standalone movies that kind of cover the.
And once they mention Thrawn, everyone goes crazy who watched Rebels. Yeah. Because, you know,
read the books. I mean,
right. So, you know, it'll play out in Ahsoka for sure, because she's looking for Ezra.
Sure. And we even saw that with the, you know, the little space whales in hyperspace, you know. Right. So yeah, they are laying the groundwork. I think I felt that IG-11 would have played. I mean, at the beginning of the season, you thought that they were going to kind of rebuild him, and I thought it was cute. You know, Grogu's driving around in this thing, and he's yes and no, and it was
in his mech suit.
In his little mech suit, his little mechanicals. Yes, it was a mishmash. Not everything hit, but I enjoyed it, and hopefully season 4 won't take 3 years.
It looked to me like they ended up on the Disneyland version of the Pirates of the Caribbean, where they're in a log. Yeah, he's sitting outside of a cabin and with an old fishing pole, and Grogu is catching frogs.
Yeah. I mean, yes, the episode with Lizzo and Jack Black was distracting. I think only because like when you see Lizzo, you're like, that's Lizzo. You don't think
It was more Jack Black, to be honest with you, because Jack Black can't be anybody but Jack Black.
well, that's how I'm like, that's Lizzo. That's not like the queen of this planet. That's Lizzo. Not that I don't have a problem with seeing her in that, but it is like I was like, oh, hey, it's Lizzo, and then you can't think of anything
I was
else.
less connected with who she was, so I accepted her. But
that's kind of how I feel about Baby Yoda. Oh, that's Baby Yoda, and you can't think of anything.
Yeah, no, that's Din Grogu now.
Mm-hmm.
So is he going to have to wear a helmet? Because I'm out if he has to wear a helmet.
Oh, come on, he's got to at least get armor,
and it has to be like a helmet with ears. He can't pin his ears back.
No, you cannot. I don't know. I guess we'll have to tune in.
Although it seems that now that they've amassed the Mandalorians together, they're a bit more lenient on the helmet issue. Hopefully going forward.
Well, yeah, I think the armor laid it out there. It's like, you can take your head off. You can take your helmet off. Bo-Katan can do it.
But when they're on the ship, right? And they're all talking to the three Mandalorians that are still on the planet, right? They've got like the big ice pirate ship, that the sailboat or whatever it is. And they're all sitting down at the table. I'm like, they've got to go off to eat. What do they do? Right, they're on a ship. Yeah, where are they going to go?
Turn around so I can lift my helmet, take a bite. So I don't think that what's that guy? Axel X. Would he have broken the atmosphere in his little backpack? But there's some good stuff going on there. Although, just to follow up on something else, because I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, series finale of Picard was phenomenal, light years above what's going on in Mandalorian. But
I'm really disappointed that The Mandalorian didn't take the opportunity for a cute rom-com. I mean, he's a single dad with a really troublesome toddler. She's the queen of a refugee people.
Yeah.
The makings of a really cute rom-com there. If only they both weren't so serious.
And so many jokes about him having to keep his helmet on when they make whoopee. So that would...
Grogu sitting on his back. Can you leave? Was excited to see the frog motif come back in though. Got to use the force on those frogs. Frog force. So there we go. All right, Mandalorian.
I watched Beef on Netflix.
Oh yes, I've heard a lot of buzz.
That's on my list because it has so many of my favorite people in it.
And Christina, you'll be happy to know that, unless they pull some kind of switcheroo or something, that it seems to be a one and done. So I don't think that there's going to be a season 2.
So I don't know anything about what is the basic plot of this.
Well, it's just, I don't want to give too much away, but it's just a road rage incident that happens between Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong's characters. And it escalates from there. They try to get involved in each other's lives once they figure out like who this person was that they had this altercation with on the road. Sometimes hilarity ensues, sometimes some disturbing stuff ensues. So it crosses genres very nicely. So I would recommend it.
Okay. All right. And that's on what platform?
Netflix.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So there you have it. So next week, like I said.
Are you already throwing shade?
Yeah, I just want Christina to enjoy this as much as she can. This may be an opportunity for her to also go the route of Condor Man, and get some revenge on us for throwing Vampire's Kiss under the bus. You already seen this? Super Mario Brothers is what we're covering next week.
I have not seen it.
So, because your son wanted to see it, so
he does. So he knows I have to see it for the show. So
he's waiting.
Oh, he's waiting. He's been holding off.
Yeah. So
good for him.
And he's going crazy because he can't wait to go. And I'm like,
I think my kid's already seen it twice.
I think if he wasn't going to see it, with me, I would definitely be out. I don't play video games.
Neither do I.
I don't think. I mean, they're Mario is pretty much in the pop culture. I don't think you need to play the games.
And I think, my impression of this film is that kids love it, and that's great. Because I think it's fine that there's movies that are made for kids. I don't think that adults need to like everything that kids like.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
We'll see. Woo!
And we all have a buffer of sorts, except for Jeff, when it comes to bringing kids with us to have an excuse to be there in the theater to see
No,
Mario.
I'm just a creepy guy all by himself. in a
Yeah,
kid
unfortunately.
movie.
I mean, my son's almost 17, so he looks like an adult.
Yeah, he looks older than you.
Mhm.
But the biggest news for Jeff, at least, is the co-feature.
This is big for me. I'm very excited. Matter of fact, today when I was on IMDb, I had to watch the trailer. Speed Racer, Wachowski's, in 2008. Either one of you seen this? Not
Yes.
seen this yet? Oh,
Seen
you
it
have
once. Seen it once. Yeah.
Christina?
Yes.
Oh,
And
you have? Okay.
yeah. And it's been getting it's interesting because I feel like there's been a real reevaluation of this film in the last few years.
Well, it's bizarre as I just came across on Cinema Blend. I sent you guys the link. Yeah, it's 10 reasons why you should rewatch this.
Mhm.
I chose it because it's been on my short list for a very long time, but also it just, color schemes alone. I mean, if you're, you talk about anime and you're into this stuff, this is as close as you're ever going to get to a live action anime. This is a family favorite that we used to watch a lot together. And my wife is very excited to watch this again. And I am very excited to watch this again. So hopefully I can watch it with a critical eye.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So yes, it's going to be neon overload. Your retinas are going to be burned out.
And we are kind of a little late in the game for Mario, but that's just how the schedule worked out for us.
Well, we figured if we waited another week on Renfield, it might not be around.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we're in danger of that just yet with
and Super Mario Brothers is still, as we just mentioned, is still out there.
Right.
And it has more than one showing a week. So we'll watch that and come back. And Jim, I hope that you will watch Speed Racer with your son.
Oh, yeah. I have every intention of doing so.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So
All
thanks.
right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Obviously, if you want to go check out that Vampire's Kiss, good luck. Go watch it. Go make up your own mind. Obviously, we're all over the place on this. So,
and I would say definitely see Renfield.
Yes.
If you want to laugh, I'm sure it won't be very long until it's on streaming because, like we said, it's probably going to be a week before it's out of the theater. So,
well, I noticed that Shazam: Fury of the Gods is already streaming, and it's interesting when I'm not here and I listen to the podcast. You guys every week, you're like, "Well, Christina dodged a bullet this week."
Well played. It's almost like she knew.
Yeah. One of these days, it's going to be like, I feel so sorry for Christina. This movie is just fantastic, but it hasn't happened yet.
No, it hasn't.
It hasn't happened yet.
Oh well.
We're going to be saying that. We're going to be saying that for you, Jeff, when we do Evil Dead Rise. But that's a few weeks off.
Have fun.
All right, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Hey, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends. It means the world to us and helps our listenership grow.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. TeePublic.com/TMI Confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well. I'm just saying.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you.
You want to see this guy die.
Yes.
He
yes.